Welcome back to Switchcast. You interrupted us talking about rare shoes. Bradley shoes are one of 500 made in that color, in that special edition. They apparently have tickets on the bottom of them to get into the Porsche Museum.
That's true.
We're not going to be talking about shoes tonight. We're going to be talking about cars. This is a special episode of Switchcast on the road. Last week we were in Atlanta, sort of. This week we are in Cleveland. We're always in Cleveland, but we are down at the Crawford Auto Aviation Museum. We were only on the road a little bit for this one. We are here live, so if you want to join us and interact with us, you can post your questions in the comment flow of wherever you're watching. And the venerable Mark Spence, who is not smooth tonight, he's got a full beard going. He will be relaying our questions, your questions, to us, not our questions. We look forward to answering them. With me tonight is Bradley Brownell. Bradley is a dyed-in-the-wool car guy with a resume to prove it. I was actually going down his LinkedIn experience thing, and it reads like a rap sheet for a seasoned criminal. And
I don't even know if that's up to date, but yeah.
I hope it is, because holy crap, it's like 3 pages. Anyway, he has served as an automotive journalist, jalopnik, podcast host, Porsche editor for The Drive, sales at Stoddard Parts. Sounds like you know a little bit of something about Porsches here.
I would hope so. I've probably forgotten more than I know, but yeah.
You were a contributor to Internet Brands. Is that like a fancy way of saying I post on forums?
Sort of, but they actually paid me to do it.
Really?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
People,
I worked for Internet Brands, and when they have more than just Renlist, but when you go to Renlist and there's that front page with all the articles on it, I was writing those articles.
Oh, somebody did an article about me on the front page. I don't remember what it was about, and I don't care. But nobody else cared either. There was 0 comments on the thing.
That was that was one of my first gigs after I quit my job at Stoddard and went full time into writing. I was doing a bunch of stuff for Corvette blog and a bunch of different places that Internet Brands owned. I did that for a couple years and then got a gig at The Drive and spun that into Jalopnik. I was a Jalopnik for 5 years, and wrote thousands of articles over the years.
How do you? I feel like maybe this is just that I don't have enough brain cells, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. But I've told like 30 stories on VinWiki. I feel like I'm totally out of material, and I couldn't write that much. Like, where do you find your material?
Well, luckily it's not just stories about me. It's news, it's reviews, it's basically everything. I got into when I was running short on stuff that everyone else was doing, I was like, well, I'll get into motorcycles. So I started writing about motorcycles, and then I covered the EV beat. And I covered motorsport, and I covered, just trying to find a niche that nobody else was doing so that I would always have job security.
Right.
So.
Right. Is it as hard work as people say? I mean, as a kid, I always wanted to be an automotive journalist. I thought that was the dream job because, you just get to drive amazing cars and write about them.
It can be. There are definitely hard days. There's a lot of, the travel sucks, and it's glamorous on Instagram,
Sure.
But there's the background of like, oh, well, I've got a flight tomorrow and I have to have this article written in the next 3 hours, or else I, won't make. And I was a freelancer the whole time, so it was always, I had to write the thing and then submit it and then issue an invoice and then chase the money.
Yeah.
When invoices go unpaid at the end of the month, then it's like, well, now I got to go chase my money. So there are definitely hard days, and my first year I probably made $20,000.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, is that kind of like the starving artist stereotype? Where I mean, you're saying this, it makes me think of a musician, right? Like I'm a musician by hobby, and I'm like I see what we get paid. I could never do this for a living, but I know people that do.
Yeah.
Same thing with a writer. Like I've heard what people get paid for articles, and I'm like, holy crap! Like you gotta hustle.
Yeah, you really gotta hustle. And I'm very lucky. Obviously, I wouldn't have been able to make that jump from having a desk job with insurance and a 401k and all of that. I quit all that to make almost nothing and work, very hand to mouth. And I couldn't have done that without my wife. We worked with her insurance, and we were, making it work for a little while. And she was basically paying most of the bills while I was
sugar mama,
trying to find my place in the world. And then eventually I got to a point where, in a post Radwood era, I had made a name for myself, and I was able to pitch much easier, and I was able to produce quality content in a timely fashion. So I could crank out an article in a few hours that, a couple of years before would have taken me all day or, a whole weekend or whatever.
Gotcha.
So it's definitely a learning curve, and you get better over time. But not everybody's cut out for it. And it got to a point where, after doing it for, I really started writing nights and weekends. I would take my vacation days from my desk job to go to these press trips to drive cool stuff. And that was like my entire vacation time. So I was working on vacation, and that got old really fast. But I probably started writing in like 2009, and then I went full time in 2017. And then from 17 to earlier this year, I was doing that full time.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
What you were writing during the era that I'm going to criticize, but I'll give a little background. So, I grew up reading legends like David E. Davies and David E. Davis. Sorry, I don't know why I always called him that, but reading Automobile Magazine, Road and Track, really, really good, thoughtful, well-researched articles. And then, the early days of Jalopnik and Drive, like it seemed like they were along the same lines. They were trying to do on the internet what had been previously done with big budget magazines. And I feel like recently, and maybe I'm just not reading the right places, Petrolicious is awesome, but just the general article that I see come across that's automotive related is just lazy friggin', like people just throw it together, no research, no citing, no imagination. Is that just that I'm reading the wrong places, or have you seen that as a trend lately?
There's certainly a trend in that the fact that things need to be done in quicker time. You're not allowed 3 or 4 days to research a thing. It's like, it's got to be out now. We have an article that needs to be published at 4 p.m. You're the person that's doing the 4 p.m. piece. It's got to be done by 4, or like you'll have not necessarily hell to pay, but certainly not your bills. But yeah, there's certainly a hurry up because of the social media era, because of there's a downturn in ads, so you've got to have more posts and you've got to have more clicks, and yeah, there's probably a quality issue, and we did have some of that where, at Jalopnik we were trying to hire people who were not in the normal, they didn't have the long careers in automotive media, because we were trying to get people who were outside the sphere of influence or whatever, people who didn't have relationships with manufacturers and stuff like that. So there were a lot of young kids, and there were a lot of inexperienced people, and a lot of people who didn't have a lot of writing under their belt. So that takes time to develop their voice and to develop their ability. And I think that's one of, not to toot my own horn, but I think that's one of the things that I excelled at was I just have this depth of knowledge that I don't need to spend hours researching stuff, because I just already have it in my brain.
Yeah, that certainly helps.
Yeah.
Well, and that helps you interpret the stuff you're researching too.
Exactly.
Because if you have a basis
context
of knowledge and context, for example, Porsche, you know a lot about those. I was researching Porsche 356s a while ago for a consignment customer, and the information that's out there on 356s is varied and conflicting and confusing, even on Porsche's own website. And if you have a good knowledge base to start out, you can filter the information that's coming in, because, how do you trust your sources unless you know what you know? So growing up as I mentioned, one of my dream jobs was an automotive journalist. It was originally to be a car designer because, again, I saw the glamorous side of things and thought that all car designers were like the guy who designed the Corvette C5 essentially single-handedly.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be that dreamer. And then I was like, no, I'm not qualified enough to do that because I went to engineering school.
You'd end up designing like a center console or like
Exactly.
a lid to something.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd be the guy in the cubicle that got, 2.5 GPA and barely struggled through, and I'd be designing gear sets. And I'm like, that's not me. I'm too ADD. I love cars too much. I got to be doing something. I got to be using my imagination. So my next goal was, okay, the next closest thing that allows me to be around cars was automotive journalism. And everybody pushed me towards engineering because in high school I was good at math, blah blah blah, but I wasn't that good. I hit calculus and just hit a wall. So some engineer I would have made. But I was also good at English. And I didn't pursue that as much. I enjoyed writing. But when I thought about doing automotive journalism, I asked some people and said, okay, well, what's the track to do that? And they said, well, you either have to be a race car driver or you have to basically go the same path where you have to get an engineering degree and then a journalism or an English degree because they want somebody with a background in engineering or racing to have that kind of foundational experience. And I was like, screw that. I can't do 8 years of college to go write about cars.
Yeah.
And in some weird way, not that I've become an automotive writer, but have come full circle of 15 years in the car business and now kind of back into being able to talk about cars for fun and experience them and kind of heading on that track in a really, really roundabout way.
Sure.
So that's a really long explanation of my past to say, how did you, when you were in high school, I like asking all my guests this, like, everybody can see where you are now.
Yeah.
But for the dreamers out there who were our age when they had posters of cars on their wall and played with Matchbox, what did you want to be? What's the background of your interest in cars, and what was your roundabout or what was your path to get to being an automotive journalist?
Yeah. So in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to be. I was just like floating through life. And I went on a foreign exchange program, and I lived in Spain my senior year of high school. And I didn't care about cars. I had my license, but it was like just to have the ability to drive somewhere. I had my mom's old hand-me-down 91 Pontiac Grand Prix. It's my first car. Had like 300,000 miles. It was on its third transmission, second engine. So like the Grand Prix of dang it, I messed up the Greek analogy. The guy with the boat that if you take one piece out of and however many pieces you take at the end, when is it not the same boat?
I don't know that I've heard that.
Anyway,
I just know the Johnny Cash song.
Tyler's
piece at a time.
Tyler's almost there.
Dan
Dan Doucette, do you know more than Bradley?
Sisyphus is the guy who
about this?
pushes the rock up the hill. I'm thinking of Theseus. The ship of Theseus. That's the one. Sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, devolving.
All right.
But anyway, so had this Grand Prix just to get around. I went on this foreign exchange program to Spain, and my stepfather's father would send me care packages once a month, and they had Hot Rod Magazine, Motor Trend, Car and Driver, Popular Hot Rodding, and Mopar.
After all the talk about the ship of Theseus, I thought that his care packages had one piece of the ship every month. And you were like,
No.
okay.
But he would send me these magazines, and it was the only thing while I was in Spain that I had to read that was in English.
Okay.
So I would just devour them. I didn't care about cars when I went there, and then I did when I got home because I was just reading those magazines cover to cover. And I was like, what's a carburetor? What is how does this work? I don't know. And I just learned through just consuming all of this media. And so I got back and got a 68 Mustang, started wrenching on that and figuring out how things go together, and rebuilt a motor and all this stuff in my parents' garage. And then I went to school to study business, and I got an advertising and promotion degree. So when I graduated, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do, and it was, to date myself, it was 2008. and the financial crisis had hit, and I was living in Michigan at the time, and there was just like no jobs anywhere, especially not in advertising. So my dad was living in Georgia, and I asked if I could go live with him because I figured the economy would be better in Georgia than it was in Michigan. It was only slightly better. But I found a job on Craigslist that said Porsche parts sales. And I was like, hey, we're in a recession. Porsche people have money. We'll be able to make this work. And it was car adjacent at least. And so I lied my ass off that I knew everything about 914s and got the job and spent 2 years working at a place called Automotive Atlanta. It was a very hard 2 years. And if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So I won't.
No, the reason I don't think we've ever done business with Automobile Atlanta, but for the longest time, I guess they had classified sites or something. Somehow or another, our cars for sale would end up on Automobile Atlanta. But it was usually like 3 or 4 years after they had sold.
Interesting.
So we would get leads off of Automobile Atlanta that were 5 years too late for these cars. I'm like, how or why?
Yeah, where are you calling from?
I don't know.
Weird.
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. So I worked there for 2 years. I got hired away by ECS Tuning and made my way to Northeast Ohio. I worked there for 2 years, worked with Tim. And then I left there and got hired by Stoddard. Worked at Stoddard for 7 years, I think. I don't know if the math
still
works on
a
that, but
Porsche dealer at that time,
not.
or they were just parts?
They were just
okay,
parts.
I forget the timeline when they sold.
They were just parts.
I feel like it was just a couple years ago, but it was probably a decade or so.
Yeah, it was a while
so you
ago.
worked for Bruce Schwartz
Yes.
up there? Okay, yep.
Yep. And then, like I said, nights and weekends I was writing, doing my writing thing. So I had the writing thing actually started in college because I joined my local SCCA region, the Detroit region SCCA, Region 10. And I was on the board of directors there, and I started doing some newsletter stuff there, and I interviewed a few people. The great thing about the Detroit region was there were a lot of people that were in the automotive field, so I could just look at the directory and just call them because their number was in the SCCA directory, and just so like I could just call an engineer at Cadillac or whatever and interview him for this nothing newsletter that whatever. So I would get these scoops that like nobody else got because
Awesome.
I had their phone number, and so I was able to turn that into like, here's my resume, I've already done this stuff. And I wasn't a good writer because I was in college, but I was able to turn that into a quasi career. And then one of my coworkers at Automobile Atlanta, his friend that he went to college with had a website that he needed writers for, so I got tied up into that, and that was carguydad.com. And
is that still active?
No, it was merged into Hooniverse about a year after I started writing for them. So then I was writing for Hooniverse, and this was basically free, maybe $10 an article or something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah. And this was, very early days, and I'd get $60-$80 a month doing that, and it was like, oh, I'm a professional. But they would send me on press trips.
Yeah, at that rate, I'm a professional driver. I'm a professional musician. I'm a whole lot of things.
Right. But I was able to put it on my business card. That was the important part to me. But they sent me on press trips, and I got to meet a lot of people in the industry, and I got to shake the right hands and know the right people, and more importantly, meeting people that I could gain their acquaintance so they would know who I was when I saw them, when I interacted with them on social media.
Mm-hmm.
So that ended up being how I got my job on Jalopnik, was because Patrick George posted that they needed help on the weekend. And I sent him a DM, and I was like, hey, I'm available on the weekends. And he goes, you're hired. I know who you are. You're reliable. Let's do it.
All right.
So yeah, and then just once I got that job, it was basically just a matter of showing up, having stuff that's deliverable in a reasonable timeline, because I would have, say, Saturday was my day. I would come in at 5 o'clock in the morning and I would have to do 9 articles that day. And it was one on the hour every hour for 9 hours. So I would have to come up with a topic.
That takes the fun out of it.
It was hectic. It was hectic for sure. But I would have to come up with a topic, research it, write it, edit it, post it, push it to social media, and then start on the next one.
In an hour. Golly. Yeah, people say if you love your job, you never work a day in your life.
Yes. Right. Right. Yeah,
I've had a lot of people on this show that have really amazing jobs, and no one is yet to. Everyone has debunked that statement.
Yeah. No, I loved my job, and I really loved being a writer. I think after 10 years or 12 years of writing, I kind of ran out of things to say, and it just got a little monotonous. And I was I was content writing content. Basically, It was just like being a machine.
What do you think about the allegations, I guess, that Jalopnik is no longer Car Guys in the content they're pushing out?
I mean, I know the people that are there, and I know that they are absolutely enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they've written some pretty scathing pieces that make it look like they certainly are against. I don't know.
You mean like opposed to cars in it?
Kind of, just like not enthusiast based. Just I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I mean, it was a few years ago, but they definitely went through a period where they were getting a lot of flack for just and maybe it was Cannonball stuff, and maybe that's why I was sensitive to it. But there was some other stuff other than Cannonball where it's just it seemed like they had lost their way, and they were really just getting kind of political. And
I mean, it's always been political, and I don't know. It's cars are political in a way, and we don't have to get into that, but
they're becoming even more so.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. Everything is politics in a way.
Yeah.
It all boils down to one way or the other. I don't know, but there's. Yeah.
Well, behind you is a Volkswagen Beetle. Talk about a car being political.
Right. Exactly.
That's the definition of it.
Exactly.
The people's car. A Corvair.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, friggin' Ralph Nader.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, the subject of the book
Unsafe
at Any Speed. Yes.
Yeah. We should have a copy of that next to that car.
Really should. You really should.
Yeah.
Those books are collector's items now. They're like
hear that.
$40. I was gonna buy one for somebody as a joke, and I was like, nope.
You got to go find one of those baby carriages that used to sit in the back above the engine.
Yes.
Just display it next to the car.
So backing up, this is a random small world connection that I made. But you're talking about lying about being an expert on 914s, and then working at Stoddard.
Yes.
And then the random 914 Stoddard connection to Crawford is that there's a Ferrari 365 California over behind the camera in front of us that was donated by Tom Vale Sr.
Yes.
Tom Vale Jr. owns a 914 that was at the Crawford Cruise-In
beautiful
a couple weeks ago.
Irish green.
That was built by Chuck Stoddard.
Yeah. Chuck had his hands in everything in the community. If it had anything to do with Porsche or imported cars of any kind, Chuck was in it.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude has a stellar collection. He's started this crazy business. So part of my job there was when I moved to Reno, Nevada, there was an opening out there, and they asked if I wanted to move, and I said, sure. The weather here sucks. So I went out to Nevada, and I was working out there in the office, and there was only 4 people in that office. So we got to know each other real well. And the guy who was kind of leading that office, his name's also Brad. He was Chuck's right-hand man for 30 years. And he would tell stories of oh yeah, we went to Stuttgart to buy, Chuck wanted to buy a 959. And they said, yeah, you can buy this 959, but you got to take this 917 over in the corner because it's junk and we don't want it.
this probably Le Mans winning 917.
Yeah. So But so Chuck has like this amazing collection, and he built that entire business. So the parts business was between him and Brad. They would go to other dealers, and they would, when the 911 came out and 356 was no longer relevant, they would say, "We'll buy all of your 356 parts. Look up everything that has a prefix with a 644 or whatever, and go get those, and we'll buy them for 10 cents on the dollar. We'll just buy them by the pound, whatever you got." And they would do it because it was old inventory and they didn't want it. So they would sell all their inventory 356 stuff to him, and then he started a restoration business. So anytime if you wrecked your 356, you would go to him because he was the guy. And so, that was how Stoddard started, was, literally people would go to dealers and that actually, Myron.
Yep.
He used to do that. He would go like on road trips, find a Porsche dealer and go, "Hey, I'll buy all your 356 stuff, buy it for a penny on the dollar and sell it to Chuck for a dime on the dollar." And so
I remember him telling me about that. Yeah.
So like that, the ingenuity and the whatever behind the Porsche world in Northeast Ohio is all due to Chuck.
Yeah.
So.
And there's not a lot of that anymore because everything has become so valuable and sought after that it's just there's nothing in the car world that is orphaned anymore.
Well, I used to hear stories of people who are like, "Oh yeah, I cut up a short wheelbase 911 or a 67S or whatever. I cut it up and I made a slant nose replica or whatever in the 80s because that was the thing you did." And in 2007, you're going, "Oh man, I can't believe you did that." Well, in 2022, I can sit here and go, "Well, I've cut like 5 914s in half."
Yeah.
Like those cars don't exist anymore.
A lot of them fell in half to start with. So.
Sure, yes, but
you didn't cut them. You just placed.
Look at them wrong.
Kick or hammer.
Open both doors. Take the target top out and jump.
Oh man! All right, a word from our sponsors. Boxcast is a live streaming company based in Cleveland, Ohio, and they serve broadcasters and viewers around the world. Can't see around my mic. Their founders launched Boxcast back in 2013 with one purpose: to make people part of the experience. If you're looking to live stream your podcast, church service, car show, sporting event, wedding, museum tour, or even your cannonball attempt, think about that, Brad. Boxcast is an easy, flexible live streaming platform for organizations. Boxcast is so easy, we're broadcasting this show with a phone. Head over to switchcars.com/boxcast for your free trial. Nathan's Detailing is a proud sponsor of Switchcast. Nathan's Detailing is a company in Cleveland, Ohio that provides mobile detailing services for individuals and dealerships. They also offer PPF and ceramic coating installations. With 800-plus Google reviews and an impressive 4.9 rating, Nathan's Detailing is the go-to shop for all of your detailing and protection needs. With Nathan's Detailing, convenience is key. Their mobile detailing technicians bring the power, water, and supplies to your home or work and detail your car on site. Check out the link below for free interior fabric protection or leather conditioning with your purchase. Nathan's Detailing. This smiles for you. We are back here live at the Crawford Auto Aviation Museum in Cleveland, Ohio. A wonderful place to visit. We have a vintage motorcycle display going right now, and plus their usual cadre of vintage automobiles and airplanes. You can see a few of them behind us in the shot.
It's a P-51 Mustang right there.
Yeah.
Allegedly still airworthy. I'm sure it would need a lot.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Apparently it flew into Cleveland and then was put in here and has not moved since. But
yeah.
There's a lot of cool stuff here. And we're actually reopening the lower gallery tomorrow for the live listeners.
So July 14th.
14th. And during our Crawford Cruise-In tomorrow, we will have the lower gallery open for anyone who wants to check it out. So,
are there any Duesenbergs or like big body Packards down there?
There's
any
some
limousines?
There's some Packards. There's some Peerless. There's a lot of big stuff.
The super luxury, the ones with like the gold trays in the back and the
Yeah.
The cups.
Yeah, there's some stuff like that.
Some glass, the cut glass stuff.
Yeah.
Hey guys, so the peanut gallery here brought their typical bourbon to share, but they forgot glasses. So if you want to go downstairs and check out the limousines down there, you might be able to find some glasses there. How much trouble will we get in for that?
A bit.
What if we wash
little.
them?
I'm not even gonna answer that. We're just gonna move on.
We're empty-handed tonight. The
pass
smart
out in that
ones brought
camper.
their own snifters. Oh man. I lost my train of thought. Anyway, so we're here with Bradley Brownell. If you're just joining us, he is the newly minted curator.
Director.
What's the correct word?
Director.
There's an office joke there about director being higher than manager or
Yes.
something.
Yes.
Regional director of sales, Andy Bernard. You're the director of the Crawford Auto Museum.
Mm-hmm.
That brought you back to Cleveland from California. Sort of.
Nevada. And so sort of, it's kind of a weird roundabout thing, but I started interviewing for the job back in August of last year, almost a year ago. And I finally officially got the job about 2 months ago. So 10-ish months of interview process, be it over the phone, over Zoom, in person, various ways of communicating with people who work here, and eventually did get the job. Very happy to have gotten it, but I didn't end up actually moving here because of the job. I moved here and then got the job.
Okay.
I thought it was gone.
Sure.
I thought for sure after 10 months that it was like, oh, there's no way, they hired somebody else. No big deal.
Sure.
But
Well, let's fill in the hole before that first, because I do want to talk about Crawford and what you're doing here. We have some questions about the museum.
Sure.
And again, if you have questions you want to get in, we will get to those. Just post them in the comment flow of wherever you're watching with us, and we will answer those as fed to us by Mark. So you were an automotive journalist for quite a while. You said you were getting content with writing content, and that was the point that you thought, okay, next thing.
Yeah.
And I believe the next thing was Radwood. Is that correct?
Well,
or was there something
Radwood
in between?
Radwood was during. I was doing the journalism thing, and then I started car shows.
Okay.
And I completely glossed over that.
So talk about Radwood. That is the kind of new wave of millennial car interest, I'd say.
Yeah. It blew up, and it became something that I don't know if we expected it. We certainly didn't expect it to be as big as it is. So that show started in 2017, the same year that I went full time as an automotive journalist. So that gave me the freedom of having weekends off and being able to travel and still write and not be tied to a desk. So
what is Radwood in a nutshell? You can do a better elevator pitch than I can because you founded it.
Sure. Radwood is a festival for all things 80s and 90s. It's centered around cars and the automotive experience, but we also encourage people to dress in period and bring characters to life from the period and bring their Nintendos and all that kind of stuff, the accoutrements that go with that era. And it started as a car show for us and our friends because
You all had
we all had stuff from that. Yeah, we all had junk from the 80s. I had a 97 Boxster, and initially when I lived here, I had an 83 944 that was beat. Tim will remember. It was pretty beat. But I went to a PCA event. I think it had like 480,000 miles on it. It was like it was an 83 Zermatt Silver. I still miss that car, but I went to a PCA meet, and they were basically like, "Are you sure you want to pay the entry fee to be in this show?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do.
Do you have enough money?"
Yeah, right. And because at the time, I bought the car for like $1,500. It was it was that or a Honda Civic or something, completely. So they were like, we don't really want this here, so we're going to put you over by the trash cans under the tree over there, and that'll be good enough. So, that kind of brought to the front of my mind, like, oh, we need a place for us, for
Sure.
our, whether they're beaters or whether they're grand or, whatever. Whether you remember them from Gran Turismo or if it was a hand-me-down from your mother or whatever. So, those were the cars that we always had growing up. All of my cars until fairly recently came from the Radwood era. So it was 3 podcasts. It was the Driving While Awesome guys, and then I was running a show called Camden Tubbed, and then our friends at Clutch Kick. So there were 3 podcasts that got together and started Radwood, and the 2 of the podcasts don't exist anymore, and Driving While Awesome still exists, but so we came together and started this show, and we kind of promoted it on Instagram, and we bought some T-shirts, and we had a food truck show up and all that, and we rented out a marina for like $150.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a parking lot that happened to have oceanside. You could park cars on it. They do the BMW 2002 show there every year. And so we rented this out, and we told all our friends, and we're like, hey, everybody come to this. We expected it to be, 30, 40, maybe 50 cars, and like 110 cars showed up.
Nice.
So we were like, okay, this is much bigger than we thought it was going to be. We made money on that show, like $12, but we were from our first
so
show.
a little bit more than writing an article.
Yes, we were in the black though. That was important. We made all our money back, and we knew that we had something going on. And so while I was in kind of negotiations to get my Jalopnik job, Patrick George, the editor there, reached out to us and said, hey, this show looks amazing. We want to publish something about it. Can you send us something? And one of our friends had written this piece about how it changed his life, and it was like just such an amazing show, and nothing like it exists. And he had really, really good photos. And so they published that on Jalopnik, and it got
I remember those
ton of
photos.
traction.
Yeah.
A ton of traction. This was
I think that's how I heard about it.
June of
probably.
2017.
Yep.
And so that article got so much traction, and it spread like wildfire around the world. And so they reached out to us again, and they were like, so when's the next one? And we were like, well, we were planning on having it next year. And they were like, well, call us when you want to do the next one. So we sat down and we're like, what if we did it in like December, like 6 months from now? And we decided that was what we were going to do. Jalopnik sponsored it. We got a bigger venue that fit like 150 cars, and it sold out. There were cars like lining the streets and parked in the church parking lot next door, and like it was huge. And that one it was actually like, oh, we made some money, not like enough to live on, but it was a sustainable idea if we were to grow this and make it work. So then the next year we decided we were going to go a little harder, and I think we did maybe 4 shows that year. We did a tie-up with 24 Hours of Lemons, where they had this thing they called Hooptycon, where we did a show at one of their races at Sonoma. So we got a free venue, and we were able to make a little bit of money that way. And so it turned into kind of a business where, we were doing it part-time, but it was just one of those other things that we added to our repertoire of things to make money with. And obviously to have fun with. I mean, the whole point of it was we were enjoying it because it was a show for us. And so it ended up like consuming our lives, and we had a schedule in 2020 to do 12 shows, one a month, every month for the whole year. And obviously that didn't happen.
Right.
But when we did come back in late 21, it was like nothing had ever stopped.
Mm-hmm.
The enthusiasm for it was just as big as it was before. Our biggest show before the pandemic was the last one, was Austin, Texas. We had 6,000 people, over 1,000 cars.
Holy cow.
And it was just massive. And we were building on that momentum, and then it all just kind of died. And then we came back, and we had our first NorCal show back in, I think, June of 21. So it was kind of a 4th anniversary, not one to celebrate, but whatever. And that was even bigger. So it was slightly fewer cars, but it was more people.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up just being like a sellout crowd at every show that we did. And that was kind of when the contract negotiations started to sell the business. And that's what happened. Hagerty bought it, and now it's I'm no longer involved. They gave us an option to stay on as employees, and I just didn't want to do that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. You
Now
like
now I'm doing
adventure
this.
and challenge.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we found Radwood, I think, from that article that you talked about, and our first show was December 2018. It was in LA. What's that? Second show? That was our second
17.
show. We were out there in 17? I didn't realize that.
Well,
okay.
You must have been.
I guess. Yeah, it was.
So that was the one, the German with the big tent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only show we did at
There's
that
a
venue.
996 GT3 there, and I'm like, what is this doing here? Yeah, because that was Farrah's 40th birthday party. For some reason, I thought that was 18. Okay, anyway, so we were there at that 17 one.
Wow.
And then we did a couple of the East Coast ones, and the LA one kind of spoiled us. I'm not going to lie, because we did Atlanta, and I think maybe
Atlanta
some
was
of
a weird one.
It was a weird one.
Yeah.
But I know, like, California is where most of you guys are headquartered. That was your, like, you knew that area, you knew that community. And some of the East Coast shows, like the guys went to Philly. They said that show was awesome.
Philly was awesome.
Atlanta was
Philly
a little
great.
weird. That one was off. And then we went to Detroit.
Detroit was cool. It was way too hot.
It was too hot. It was too hot. It was a good turnout.
There
but
was
it was
no
just,
air
there
moving
was no
that
shade.
day. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
It was tough circumstances, but it was a good showing.
Yes.
And then a lot of Cleveland people have been bugging for it to come to Cleveland. You guys finally came to Cleveland this year. And was that coincidence, or was that because you're here and I guess one of the other co-founders also is in Cleveland? Like, you guys are all just converging here.
Yeah. So one of our co-founders, Rick, he moved here last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's from here. And he wanted to move back, one, because real estate was cheap, and two, because his business based in the Bay Area, once the pandemic hit, they were like, oh, well, there's no point in having an office. We can work from anywhere. We're a digital company. We can work from anywhere. So he just bought a place in Cleveland.
Right.
Got rid of his place in San Francisco, in downtown San Francisco.
Side note, that whole phenomenon is really pissing me and my wife off, because we're trying to upgrade in house and we're competing with all these people that are making New York and California salaries coming here going, oh, $500,000? Yeah, okay.
I'll just
no
pay
inspections.
cash.
Yeah, okay. That's my equity in my California house.
Well, I kept my Reno house when I moved here, so I didn't do that, but I did have Radwood money to deal with. So we ended up buying 2 places here, and we still have the place in Reno. So
gotcha.
Anyway,
so you guys just happened to come to Cleveland.
Yeah. I mean, I really liked Cleveland when I lived here before. I was broke, so I couldn't really enjoy it the best that I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
The food is amazing. The places to go are amazing. There's all kinds of great. I mean, just within 5 blocks of here, there's like the best art museum that I've ever been to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's amazing. Free entry, and one of the greatest buildings that I've even seen. So very cool.
I've not. I've been to some of the other museums.
It's
but
worth
not the
it.
art museum.
It's worth it.
Gotcha.
And the Natural History Museum across the street here is really cool, and the Arboretum's awesome, and the Modern Art Museum down the street's great. Yeah, there's a ton of really cool stuff to do here.
Cool.
Rock Hall, of course.
All right, 2 questions about Hagerty. You can answer these or not.
Okay.
One of them is a little bit political. I say we don't talk politics on here unless
Okay.
they're related to cars. But so this one's sort of related to cars.
Yes.
It seems like, and maybe it's the California contingency, most of the Radwood founders are more on the progressive side.
Sure.
And Hagerty seems to be, as a culture, more on the old car guy fuddy-duddy side. The muscle car guys, you know where their political stuff lies. I mean,
Sure.
they have. I've seen articles from Hagerty. They seem to be kind of fully entrenched in the internal combustion side of things, supporting the classic cars, anti-EV. You actually founded
An EV car show.
Autopia, an EV car show, not to be confused with the Autopian, but so you know,
Our name
you guys
came out
are
first.
kind of on opposite ends of the political spectrum. Did that come into play at all when you're looking at selling to them, or was it just like this doesn't matter because it's about cars, or was that not even a consideration because they were furthering and expanding upon what the foundation you guys had laid?
I don't think politics entered into it at all. One, I think that they, not to be tough on them or anything, but they're a business, and they'll sell insurance to whoever wants to buy it. It doesn't matter if they have a classic car, if it's from the Radwood era or if it's a muscle car or whatever. Sure. They're trying to grow their business and reach new markets. So,
but they're definitely not going after Tesla guys as their key demographic.
No, and for to their credit, Tesla isn't exactly a classic car.
True.
Yet, I'm sure if somebody came in with one of the early Tesla Roadsters and said, "Hey, I need specialty car insurance for this," they'd go, "Yeah, sure, no problem."
By the way, I can't believe what those stupid things are
6
worth.
figures? It's crazy.
What the heck?
Yeah.
They're garbage.
When I was looking at, I thought about getting one early on when they were like 40, and then they just exploded in the last like 2 or 3 years.
They exploded as much as their transmissions exploded early on. That 2-speed thing. Oh man.
So no, I don't think politics entered into it, and certainly the Radwood's politics and the politics of the founders of Radwood is fairly progressive. We were. Our first show was in San Francisco, if that gives you any idea.
Sure.
So, we've always tried to be welcoming of everybody, not only because we want everyone to feel welcome, but also because we want more people to buy tickets.
Right.
So there is there is a cynical side of that as well, but we do want to be welcoming to everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
You don't work for Hagerty, so I guess I can ask you this question. So you had mentioned it seems like Hagerty has been just buying up everything, right?
Sure.
And they're a publicly traded company now. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That impacts things a lot. I've been talking about Carvana a lot in terms of their growth at all costs business model. Granted, their Carvana started on a wrong foundation of we're not making money yet, but we're going to grow at any cost. Hagerty has started with we're making a crap ton of money, but now we're publicly traded, so we're trying to grow and make money by just buying up everything in the automotive sphere, which I guess we'll see how this plays out. What's your opinion on that?
I think that McKeel has enough money that he just buys things that he likes. It's stuff that appeals to him. It's, he bought the California Melee because he enjoys going on the California Melee.
It's a write-off for him now.
He buys these Concours because he enjoys going to Concours.
Right.
But also because everyone on those events is a potential customer.
Yes.
So there is maybe a business case to be made for, and it's a marketing expense.
Yeah.
We're able to reach people in a way that they see we're part of the community. I don't work there. I don't know, but that's the way I see it. But also, like you said, they are a publicly traded company. They have to show growth.
Yeah.
So in order to keep their shareholders happy, they have to buy new stuff and expand and gain. And that's just the way that people value companies now is growth at all costs.
Right.
So
how big do you think Radwood will become under Hagerty's oversight? The bigger question, that's a micro question of the macro question of, do you think there is a potential within the automotive world, fueled by somebody like Hagerty with the resources they have to really just grow the overall passion?
Yeah, maybe. Yes and no. I mean, one of the big reasons that we ended up selling the company was because we were a 6-person team running a show for 6,000 people. We just didn't have the resources. And also, we would have to pay for a venue. We wouldn't get paid back until all the tickets sold. So we would be basically in the negative until we had our next show. So we couldn't then turn around. Once we've booked this venue, we couldn't go to the next venue and go, hey, we want to book you for the next month. We would have to wait until we had made that money back to turn it around and send the money to the next venue.
That explains why we're all waiting here going, when's the next show?
Exactly.
That's what we were all doing. Like, why haven't they just given the schedule for the year?
Yeah.
That explains
And
it.
so that was definitely part of it. And with backing from a company like Hagerty, they don't have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
They can call up a friend and go, "Hey, you've got a great venue. Oh, it's 20 grand. Okay, here's 20 grand."
Yeah.
Whereas we were like, 20 grand, Jesus, like we're out of money. We couldn't make salary for a month because we had to book a venue. And it was just like, oh, that's the way it is. You know?
That's the curse of the entrepreneur.
Totally. and
But it paid off.
It paid off. And
right? That's why it pays off.
Right.
Is
We
because you
took a
had
huge
those
risk.
months.
Yeah. Took a huge risk, and we fought really hard, especially through COVID. We had to get the PPP loans. We had to get whatever we could to try and make it through, because we had 3 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees that still needed to pay their mortgages, and we had a storage unit with all of our stuff in it, all our inventory. We had inventory that we had ordered for a show that we were paying the credit card on. So it was like, it was rough there for a few months.
Oh.
It was rough for a few months, but when we got back and we had our first big show, we were able to like wipe the sweat off of our brow and go, we survived.
Yeah.
We made it through. So very grateful to everybody who ever came to a show, because it was definitely a dream, and we had a lot of fun doing it. I didn't get to see like even a quarter of the cars that went to shows because we were busy the whole time, but I hope everyone had fun.
We've enjoyed all the ones we've gone to. Yeah.
If it wasn't for Radwood, I would not know any of you guys, actually.
That's true.
I've had a lot of stories like that.
That's true.
I actually
Darn
know
it, Radwood.
I actually know of a couple of my friends who are in a relationship now because of Radwood.
Oh.
Because he went out to the West Coast and she lived on the West Coast, and they met at Radwood, and they were like passively interested in each other. But
See, guys, every now and then there is a single girl at a car show. Every now and then.
One.
But probably more likely to be at Radwood because it's a cultural celebration, and they can dress up in costumes and do their hair and makeup, and there's something for them,
especially
a reason for them to go.
Especially in LA, we definitely had a lot more of the influencer style of like people who would dress up and they would do their Instagram poses and stuff with cars and stuff.
Yeah.
So
LA it felt like a real cultural immersion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Detroit was a show. I swear we have the curse of weather.
Yeah.
In that almost every show we've gone to has been like 95 degrees with no breeze and no
freezing
shade
cold
or anything. Well, we've never been to a cold one. Every single one we've been to has just been
Cleveland was freezing.
Oh, that's right.
We were just inside most of the day.
Okay.
That venue was amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool. Apparently, they got screwed on the venue because one of the tenants wouldn't let them use the parking lot because they had a tractor trailer that was parked in there or something.
The one that didn't move all day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was weird, but I don't have to worry about that anymore. That is no longer my responsibility.
All right, let's see. We already kind of answered that question. So we do have a question of the week. The question of the week is brought to you by Nuts for Sticks. Nuts for Sticks is more than just a cool Instagram account. It is a merchandise website. We have awesome shirts that celebrate the automotive lifestyle and particularly love for all things stick shift. So you can go to nutsforsticks.com and use the discount code SWITCHCAST to get 10% off of your order. And the question of the week will receive a free T-shirt and maybe free Crawford tickets.
Sure.
Yeah, there you go. Free Crawford tickets if you're anywhere near Cleveland, and a free T-shirt from Nuts for Sticks. So the question is, and I had come up with this question, but Lars asked it better, so he gets the T-shirt. From Lars Brunkhorst, what are the biggest challenges that you foresee with getting the younger generations more involved with the museum? Is it more activations, influencer marketing, hands-on demonstrations, especially with the older vehicles like the brass era stuff that have a target audience that is maybe starting to age out? That's a nice way of saying it. All right, so biggest challenges you foresee with getting the younger generation or even the older generation, right? Because it's a continuous involvement thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. There are a lot of challenges with that, and the museum has been impacted by COVID as well, because we were shut down for a while, and we're certainly not yet back to where we were pre-pandemic as far as visitors coming to the museum. So everybody come, it'll be great. But I think, one, having a director, there hasn't been a director here for like 6 years. So having somebody who focuses on the collection, focuses on getting people in the door, focuses on, and this is me, by the way, that will be a boon just from a foundational standpoint. There hasn't been that. We have started to invest in the structure of the museum itself. We just recently remodeled the lower floor. We're hopefully going to be expanding that gallery into, we have a storage facility on the lower level. That'll get a renovation and will be more display space. This space up here will get, will kind of shift around, and we'll get some more exhibits in. I mean, without a director, there couldn't have been real exhibits, aside from we had we had Radwood 5 years ago here, and then there was an electric and steam display between those, and then the motorcycles was this year. So now that we have a director, I can actually focus on getting in more frequent exhibits, getting more people in the door, that kind of thing. As far as getting a focus on the collection, one of my tasks is to update the collection. You know, we have a lot of pre-war stuff, we have a lot of brass era stuff, and that's all fine and good, but we need to diversify. We need to bring in some newer things, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and have a more diverse display of cars, a more representative timeline of stuff that people are interested in. And then as far as the stuff that we have in the collection that's brass era, you know, Fred Crawford, the founder of the museum, he left a lot of his collection, which was primarily pre-war brass era stuff. So one, I would like to have all of that stuff kind of triaged, because it's been in storage for so long and hasn't been used. Will it run? Does it work? What does it need? Those kinds of things. Once we figure that out, I would like to get some of them running and out. For example, it's Wednesday. There's Wade Oval Wednesdays is right over there on the oval, right across the street from us. There's a huge celebration, live music, food trucks, all that kind of stuff. If we were to have a running car out there that could, you know, bring out something pre-war, show people how it starts up, make it an actual tangible thing, instead of something behind ropes in a museum that has been in a museum since before my grandparents were my age. These things they need to be taken down off the pedestal and prove that they're actually things again.
To that point, my 6-year-old cannot get him into cars, which is fine. I've committed that I'm going to let him be interested in what he's interested in. I'm not going to, try to
There's still
live
time.
Vicariously through.
I didn't get into cars until I was like 17.
Right.
So.
But if he never does, I won't care. Like,
Sure.
I want him to be passionate about what he is passionate about. But
Yes.
he definitely does not give a rip about cars. And I took him to the Cars and Coffee that was at your guys' restoration facility. And he just, did not care. He wanted to leave. I parked out on the lawn because I didn't want to get blocked in, because I knew we'd be leaving after an hour. But the only thing besides the donuts that he was interested in was you had an old Model T or something that was shuttling people back and forth from the auxiliary parking lot. And he just wanted to keep riding in that all day.
Sure.
Because it was hands-on. It was something he could look at, feel, experience.
Yes.
And
absolutely. Well, one of the great things about T's and Model A's is that because there were so many of them built, and because the target market for them is aging out and is either no longer able to work on them or no longer able to drive them, younger people are getting into them because it's a way to get into heritage cars at a low price point. So you can pick up an A for like $15,000 that's in fairly good condition. and you can take it to a car show. You can take it to a vintage driving event. You can, all kinds of things that you can do with these things. And they're starting to modify them. They're starting to make them period correct hot rods. They're starting to, do crazy things with them that young kids do. And so I'm so excited about that movement and the potential of these early pre-war cars finding new life with a new audience because they've aged out of their old audience. So hopefully that'll extend into some of the stuff that we've got in the collection. I want to get some of these cars out for more events. Like I said, we had the Avanti at a Concours last weekend. Concours is great. I love Concours, but it's not going to get the young people, the young crowd. So I want to get out and do some driving events. I want to go to like the California Melee or like the, whatever, East Coast Fall Leaf Tours or
host your own.
Or
So
one of the ideas
you're an
that
event
I've had,
planner, right?
yes,
you
exactly.
founded Radwood. Like the potential's here.
Yes.
There's we went to the Audrain.
Yes.
I'm sure you're taking notes from Donald Osborne.
Very much am.
Holy crap, we were there for a weekend just to tour the museum, and during the weekend there was a Cars and Coffee. There was some paid drive led by David Donahue, the pro racer, Pikes Peak Hill Climb record setter, 24-hour Le Mans, Daytona winner. There was a gentleman of distinguished honor motorcycle ride from the museum. Like, there's just all this stuff happening all the time.
Yeah.
That people could be involved in.
Yeah. Yeah, and part of that is they've got a much bigger budget than us, but part of that is that they have the access and the ability to take things that are in their collection that run. There's so much of this collection that has been in storage for so long, that's been in basically permanent storage condition, drained of fluids, on display. So who knows if the seals function, these kinds of things. So there's a 1919 Harley down there that I would love to get fully, not restored. It's in like barn find original condition, but functional again. Get the engine pulled apart, make sure there's nothing that would explode on the first kick, and then get it running again and take it on. I want to have a vintage pre-war motorcycle ride from here to one of the great things about the Western Reserve Historical Society is that we have multiple properties. We have Hale Farm and Village down in Bath, near Akron. So if we could do a ride from here to there and make it go through the national park, make a whole thing out of it, I think that'd be a really fun time.
You jokingly, I had messaged you about the what the stink is that rally that goes all the way across country? They just came through here like a couple weeks ago.
The Great Race.
The Great Race, yeah.
Yeah.
And I said it'd be great for like Crawford and the Cannonballer to do a time speed distance rally.
Yeah.
And you suggested taking the Gullwing.
Yeah.
What, we gonna do that or?
I mean, I can't commit to it right now because I don't think that runs, but we could maybe make it run.
I'm sure that there are people that can make that run, and I think Hagerty could insure it. So.
Yeah, sure. I'll just give McKeel a call.
I think it'd be great. That would be good publicity.
Oh, it absolutely would.
Yeah.
It absolutely would. I mean, we've got, literally the entire collection here is eligible to participate in that rally. So it'd be awesome. Apparently you get more points the older the car is, so maybe we need to take something older.
Well, having done cannonballs in vintage cars, the worse the car, the worse the time. I know some of those guys think they're having an awesome time in these open top, pre-war cars, but it really isn't that awesome.
Especially
it's great
if the weather
to go
turns.
drive around, but man, I will happily go in comfort in the Gullwing. Yeah. It's no E63 AMG, but there's a novelty to driving those old cars, the really, really old stuff around, but they are not good cars.
Yeah,
they
for sure.
really are primitive.
Yeah.
So, that would be a long 15 days or so.
They drive like locomotives because some of them are.
Yes. another word from our sponsors, and then I promise we will get to your questions here. Let's see. Celebrity Machines is a proud sponsor of Switchcast. Celebrity Machines offers more than 250 different screen-accurate license plates as they appeared in movies and TV shows like Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, The Fast and the Furious, Breaking Bad, and so many more. Celebrity Machines also makes our dealer insert plates as well as our commemorative 2539 plates from the fastest cannonball run ever. So if you want to commemorate your cannonball run or you have a dealership and you need quality aluminum plate inserts, check out Celebrity Machines. Or if you just want a gift for your car person in your life or your own garage wall, go to celebritymachines.com and use promo code SWITCHCAST to save 25.39% at checkout. You know, I think they supply the Peterson with their plates that they sell, because they have a museum gift shop, and they have incredible markups. You might want to look into that.
Okay.
Sell some plates here.
Well,
do you have any?
Sounds like you've got a hookup.
Yeah. Do you have any movie cars here?
No, we do not. We need to change that.
Need to change that. Do a movie car.
We used
display.
to have a screen used Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Oh, that one was out at the place in Chardon for restoration for a while, right? It was Rolls-Royce based.
Could be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I saw
Wasn't
that
the
one
Tucker
when
in
it
the
was
movie too?
Parts.
Maybe. In Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
No, the Tucker and Tucker.
We don't have a Tucker.
Well, you used to.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
That's news to me.
Oh.
They sold it off. That was a big point of contention.
Yeah,
among
I know
some
I know
people.
some things were sold.
Yes.
I don't know exactly what. But
Yeah, a Tucker was one of them.
That's a
it was
shame.
sold. I lied to you guys.
All right, Mark. Smooth Mark. Give it to us. I'm sorry, bearded Mark.
I have a beard, thank you. The first
Your
question
voice
is, from,
is
and
smooth.
only question is from Adam Wilmot. Hey, Doug. Hey, Brad. Enjoying the first week with my first sports car. Picked up a C7 Z51 and absolutely love it. Is there any performance driving schools near Buffalo, New York?
No idea.
There's got to be.
Let me Google that for you.
I mean, there has to be
Doesn't
something.
every track have a driving school?
I was going to say there's got to be something at Watkins Glen. I mean, that's not super close to Buffalo, but it's like
Mid-Ohio has their performance driving school. It's 5 hours from Buffalo. So Skip Barber bankrupt, or did they get bought
yeah,
out?
they got bought out.
Okay.
They're
by Hagerty.
Nelson's has it. Pit Race has schools.
Yeah.
Heath Moyle asked, when was the last time you washed the 912?
I have literally never washed the 912.
Okay, so you said you had a 944 with 438,000 miles on it.
Yes.
You also have a 912 that the patina would rival that of Pete Jackson, who Pete owns a. He was on Switchcast a while back. Go into the archives for that episode. He owns a Porsche restoration shop locally, and in the vein of a painter's house is always peeling, he has the jankiest, rattiest driver 912, but he drives it everywhere. Yours would probably rival his for.
It's rough
for patina.
It's rough, but it's ready. I love that car. I pulled it out of a shop in San Francisco in 2016. A friend of mine had it. He couldn't get it to pass California emissions, and offered it to me for what he paid for it like 10 years prior. so
like 12 grand.
It was exactly 12 grand. Yeah, It was 12 grand. I got it running in a weekend, and it needed like tires and fuel pump relay and a few other things, but basically fired it up and I drove it basically in that condition probably 30,000 miles without really needing anything, and then the engine blew. It blew the spark plug out of the cylinder head, like just threads and all, the whole thing just took it with it. That was fun. So an engine rebuild later, and then during COVID, I rebuilt the suspension with all new Renline, lowering everything, stiffer everything, lowered everything. So it's mechanically, it's basically brand new. Brakes have all been redone. Engine's been redone. Transmission's been redone. Suspension's been redone. All the steering's been replaced. All that stuff. So mechanically, it's fresh. It's like a brand new car. But cosmetically, it's rough. The interior is bad. The exterior is bad. It leaks. There's rust. It's
a guilt-free driver.
totally.
Is it as rare as your shoes, though?
You know what? I'll even tell you how rare it is. You want to hear the build sheet on this thing?
Oh, okay, here we go. Let's hear it. Mr. Porsche Guru.
So it's a sunroof delete, radio delete, conies, sports seats, custom ordered red interior, custom ordered yellow exterior.
Bahama yellow?
It is not. It is Talbot yellow.
Oh, yes.
Talbot
yellow.
Allegedly one of 7 in that color. Tanner Faust has one of the other ones.
Good golly. You're one of those people. Do you enjoy it more? Do you enjoy your shoes more because they're 1 of 500?
No, I could not care less. I just like the shoes. But no, I don't care about the I think it's just the thing that appeals to me is that it's just a weird build. Because somebody ordered a 912E with sports seats and conies.
Huh.
Like it
That's
had to
right.
have,
You do have the squarish sports seats. Yeah.
It had to have cost somebody more than a same year 911S. Like, I don't know why they would have paid that much, but apparently, so I talked to, bringing this back to Hagerty, the original owner was McKeel's dad. It was bought by his dad in northern Michigan. And I found this out because the owner manual has a stamp in it from, when he bought it.
Wow.
So I called McKeel and I asked him about it, and he was telling me stories about it. And he goes, yeah, my dad bought it in like 77. So it had been sitting on the dealer lot. So some dealer guy ordered it in this spec, in this weird, bizarre spec. And then it just sat on the dealer lot for like a year and a half. And then McKeel's dad bought it and brought it home. And he's like, hey, check out the new car that I got. And his wife was like, I hate the color because he's colorblind. And he didn't know what color it was. So anyway. So then he drove it for a while and then gave it to his daughter, and she drove it to college in Lake Tahoe. And so that's how it ended up on the West Coast, and it was in Lake Tahoe for years, and a guy died and his kids put it on eBay, and that was where my friend bought it like 15 years ago.
That's really cool.
So,
man, talk about a small world.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, and apparently his mother spilled a gallon of milk in it in like 1978. So it's probably still rotting in the seats somewhere.
There's a joke in there. Something about it curdling or I don't know. There is a joke there. My dad puns are not haven't had enough whiskey to be on my dad joke game. All right, it is time for the props and flops of the week. The props and flops are brought to you by Switch Cars. Switch Cars is the enthusiast dealership where we buy, sell, consign, service, and store only cars that we like ourselves. Check out our hand-picked inventory at switchcars.com. Our pick of the week from Switch Cars inventory, not online, speaking of yellow 911s, is a 97 pastel yellow 993.
I love it.
It's awesome.
I'm not a 993 guy. I think they look like bars of soap, but that yellow,
they're my favorite.
That yellow is fantastic.
Yes.
I love that car.
It's 82,000 miles. It's a little rough around the edges. Not as bad as Bradley's 912, but it is definitely a guilt-free driver. Right. It could be with another 10,000 really hard miles. But it is, like his car, mechanically all there. It's got a 2-inch stack of service records, mostly from Steinel's Auto Works, a local Porsche specialist. So it is all that and a bag of chips mechanically. It is a 6-speed manual, rear-wheel drive C2, so it is the proper configuration. So if you're looking for a good deal on a driver 993, this one is it. Especially if you like pastel yellow or you're colorblind. The flop of the week. I belong to a Facebook group called Wholesale Car Club, which is a lot of fun. There's a lot of cars that are maybe or maybe not really wholesale, but it's kind of like the retail guys going to a repo auction. They think that just because they're at an auction, they're buying it for a good deal, and they end up paying way more. But no, there are some pretty good deals on there, and it's well moderated. Except on Sunday, it's free post Sunday, and the moderators let anything in. And this dude, I should have called him out here. I don't remember his name, but anyway, he bought an Aventador at Mecum on Saturday. Hammer price was $400,000, so it was $440,000 with the 10% buyer's premium. He posted it on Wholesale Car Club on Sunday, trying to flip it before he had to pay for it on Monday because he was outed as being a broker. And you go to his Instagram account, and he's like totally flexing, like posting pictures from the auction, like, oh yeah, sold this Huracan already. And I'm like, dude, that's a photo at Mecum auction. Like, okay, whatever. But just like the total social media flex Instagram account. So anyway, I guess he posted it as an accidental purchase and an urgent sale. Now, usually if you have an urgent sale, the price reflects it, right? Like, man, I got to wire $440,000 tomorrow. I'll take any friggin' offer to not get banned from Mecum. But no, he posted it for $525,000. So he's trying to make $75,000 on an accidental purchase. And he just got friggin' roasted in the comments. It was awesome. It was, yeah, a lot of epic failure. He got banned from Wholesale Car Club, probably got banned from Mecum, and somebody actually offered him $450 in the thread. So he could have got out, like, fine.
Making $10,000.
But,
yeah,
I'd
take that deal.
That is why I don't like brokers, because they screw everything up for people. Now, Mecum will probably buy the car anyway from the seller because they do that. So the seller will be made whole. But, yeah, might be a good deal on a Aventador out there. The prop of the week. Now, I got to pull this article up. My apologies. I was totally not quite prepared. Let's see. This was an article written by Gary Falls called Stay Positive, Better Days Are on the Way. And it was recapping a NASCAR race. Let's see. I don't watch NASCAR, but he did. Let's see. His driver, Chase Elliott, he said, was barely able to hang in the top 10. Lightning warnings during the race, stopped the race for 30-minute intervals. He was penalized for a loose wheel, so it sent him to the back of the pack. They had a 2-hour rain delay. They stopped airing the race. The track dried up. They did another restart, and there was no rubber on the track anymore. So Elliott, from the rear of the pack, got all the way up to first place with less than 15 laps to go. And then someone blew an engine, put oil down, and that restarted it again. He was in third place with 5 laps to go, and unbelievable, managed once again to get his way to the front and win the race. And what the prop was not to Chase Elliott, but just this guy's perspective on essentially setbacks and failure. I think people often see those who are in a position of success and don't understand or don't see the journey that was along the way. What's this saying? The road to success is paved with many failures. And so his perspective on this was just great. He said, races like this should serve as lessons to all of us that winners never give up, regardless of how adverse things look. Rookies or any driver who's not yet stood on the podium should adhere to this way of thinking. Winning is for those of us with tenacity. More often than not, it demands an effort that seems to exceed our abilities. Without caring about our weaknesses and how we feel, life places what seem like insurmountable obstacles in our path to success, but rewards those who are willing to keep pushing themselves regardless of what limits are presented to them, so you have no justifiable reason to give up. And this guy actually is he goes on to announce his new role as executive director of the Unser Racing Museum. So it's like, it's perfectly fitting, right? So like, you guys founded Radwood, and then a couple years into it, you just got shut down for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Like, you could have thrown in the towel.
Sure.
And you didn't.
Right.
And then you get bought out by Hagerty.
Yep.
You know, so
yeah, it's you know, there's what is it? Goonies Never Say Die.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. You just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never give up, never surrender.
I don't know who needs to hear that, but I guess I need to hear it. I mean, every day there's something. There's something every day that wants to try to get me down. So, Brad, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for chatting.
Thanks for having me.
Give your elevator pitch, your promo in terms of where people can find and follow you, the Crawford Museum when it's open. What do you want people to take away from this?
Sure. I want people to come in and see the hard work that we're putting in at the museum. We have gone a long ways. I was sitting downstairs looking at the Lower Crawford installation this morning and just thought of all of the time and effort that it took to get it to where it is today. And super proud of my team. We made it work. So come check it out. We've got a cruise in tomorrow on the 14th.
And every other
second
Thursday. Yep.
So there'll be another one on the
4-ish.
28th, and then it's 4 to 8. So obviously we wanted to make it early enough that if the retired guys wanted to come out and before dinner or whatever, or if you want to cut work early and come hang at the Crawford, come on down. So we'll have the cruise in tomorrow. You can find more information from the Crawford Museum on Instagram, and I think it's Crawford AAM on Twitter, Auto Aviation Museum. And then I am BC Brownell on Twitter, and I am Plugin Hybrad, HYBRAD on Instagram. The museum is open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. thecrawfordmuseum.org is the website, so check that for information.
Yep. Downtown Cleveland, right near Case Western Reserve University. And if you're into museums, there's the Natural History Museum, the Botanical Gardens, the Museum of Modern Art.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff
down here.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And on this 3 acres that we've got here in downtown Cleveland, we've got an original carousel. We've got planes and cars. We've got 2 historical mansions, art, exhibits, clothing, vintage clothing, all kinds of, everything that you'd ever want to see. This is the Cleveland History Center. So come on down, check it out.
Sweet. Thank you very much for being on.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. Thank you to our sponsors, Boxcast, Nuts for Sticks, Switch Cars, Celebrity Machines, Stephen Holm Woodworking, who did not create this particle board table, but he created our regular podcast studio table and does great custom stuff. Thank you to Nathan's Detailing and our producer, Ethan Huffnagel. Our bumper music is provided by Emily and Ivory. You can stream their full album on Spotify or SoundCloud. This episode will be available Friday in audio format wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. as we look forward to answering your automotive questions to help you on the drive of your life.